Hi, this video is going to be on how to keep a koi pond outdoors and reasonably warm in a zone 3 environment. This is an above ground koi pond which requires heat to be added, and I want to keep it at about 12 degrees for at least a large part of the winter, and then possibly lower that down to 5 degrees later on. The key thing here is it is in zone 3, which means that we're dealing with temperatures going to hit minus 30, minus 35 degrees Celsius for the winter. For me, I have two layers of 1.5 inch styrofoam on the sides. The first layer is on the inside of the frame, where the liner then pushes that against the frame and it's nice and tight. You can see another pond building video I have on my site where I actually built this and go into details on that. The outside edges of the pond have this same 1.5 inch insulation. I put this on after the fact. It's cut the same way. It's just not quite as tight to the wall. There's nothing holding it on there. I'll pack it with some foam pipe insulation and just pack it in tight. So that's on the side. Right now, looks I won't say it looks good, but it looks like it's doing something. I don't think it's doing nearly as much as you might think. The bogs, I have 4 bog filters on this pond. 2 of them I brought inside. 2 I've left outside, at least for now. You can see I've wrapped it in the bubble wrap that they use for packaging. Bought that at local hardware store, wrapped that up. And then I just put a clear cover on top, and you can see pipe insulation around the edge of the one. It just didn't quite fit, so I just ran that at the top edge and then shoved it in there. Nice tight fit, and that's going to keep my bog from freezing. I have LECA expanded clay pellets in my bog, and you really don't want that to freeze because it's porous and the water will expand and just break it apart. For what it's worth, so far it's December right now, and we've gone through temperatures where the high has been minus 15 degrees C, and the top dome is frozen over. All the condensation is frozen solid. You couldn't see into it, but taking it apart, the LECA was still in water, so it's working surprisingly well. To be honest, I was surprised to find that. Happily surprised. Okay, the second part is the top, where all your heat comes out the top. You want to block the air from blowing over this, so you need some kind of layer. Even if you're not this zone level, even if some plastic, you can stop the air from just sucking all the heat out of your water. So the first layer I have is polycarbonate. This is stuff used for greenhouses. I bought some cheap stuff off Amazon. I was disappointed how flimsy it seemed. It seemed very flimsy, but it does span the full 6 inches, and it does sag a little bit, but not much. And again, much to my surprise, when I put my bog on top of it, which is a 7-gallon bucket full of LECA and water, so it probably weighs 40 or 50 pounds, I'm not sure, but quite a bit. Yeah, it held it up just fine. So yeah, I actually fairly pleased with the stuff. I did tape the edges to stop the air from flowing through it. I think another thing I would do differently, other than insulation on the bottom, was I'd probably inject some silicone or maybe even some of that expanding polyurethane insulation into there, just to make the edges have a good R value. I'd probably use silicone because it wouldn't look so ugly. The pieces I bought were 2 feet wide. I used tape to build kind of like a piano hinge on there, just butted them up to each other, taped along the one edge, flipped it open, and then taped along the inside edge where it's folded. That allows it to fold up or fold down, so it kind of accordions when I go to put it away. So that works well. It allows me to open the edge and feed the fish, see the fish, etc. So the tape I used was clear Gorilla tape, and it worked well. Yeah, and then you can see cuts here where I have the bog filter. I had to cut it there because the bog's on top of the cover, and cut it, tape those edges. Now I can open it up. What I have heating the pond is a 250-watt heater. So that worked fairly well when it wasn't too cold out, when we're dealing with near 0 temperatures or slightly below 0 temperatures. But it does get quite a bit colder. That November was warm, so it worked great for November. So on top of that, yet another layer of 1.5-inch polystyrene. The wood you see piled on is just to hold it down so it doesn't blow away. So yeah, that works well. I think it works well. As of December, I have The one addition I have is when it does get cold, I am not opening this pond. The fish will not be fed. Have the temperature down quite a bit lower so they're not needing food. And I've installed lights. This did not go so well. I bought two 24 volt pond lights, waterproof pond lights, and a transformer. I bought them separately, thinking that in the summer maybe I'll put the lights in the pond and then for the summer. Not that important, but anyway, two lights worked fine. And then I bought four more, thinking I'd end up with six or maybe eight. And I found with this transformer that I could hook them up individually, one at a time, and they all worked great. But when I unplugged it, plugged it back in, it did not power on the lights. I need these lights, as I said, to keep the cover closed. So I got this cheap garden dome lights. I put on a couple LED bulbs there, and that's what I'm using. And my pond is outside, but it is under covered deck, so I'm not overly worried about rain in winter. Yeah, so that and they are working well. I actually have a underwater camera that I followed another fellow off YouTube. I'll put a link to his instructions here in the description, and it's it allows me to watch the fish, make sure the bubbler's going, and that's how I insulated the pond. I don't have insulation on the bottom, which I really wish I did. I had a little bit of that styrofoam insulation left over, basically 2 feet by 6 feet piece, which I cut in half. And I ran that around the outside edge of the pond, hoping to allow that portion of the ground to stay a little warmer from the heat in the pond. How's the performance so far? In November, I found my heater was on about 1/3 to 1/4 of the time. In December, as things cooled off, it's now on quite a bit more, probably about 75% of the time. That's a 250-watt heater. I have a second 200-watt heater I'll put in with that as it gets colder. I want to really see where this one falls down. One problem I found was that I run my air pump from inside the house out to the pond, and I was getting condensation in the lines, and around about -10, -15, it was freezing. What I've done is I've wrapped the air hose in weather stripping. The white stuff here is closed cell, so the air won't flow through it. I ran out of that. The gray stuff is not. So that sticks on okay, but I had found I had to wrap it in duct tape, A, to make it sure it sticks tight, and B, because the open cell foam, which allows air to go through it, just to give that protection from the wind.